Yo, what's good? So I want to remake one of my favorite new bass sounds in Serum 2. And while I'm doing that, I just want to talk about what I think is actually really useful about this new synth. Because I think a lot of new preset packs you're going to see coming out for this synth, there's going to be a ton of over-processed sounds. Like, I find a lot of the time when I'm buying other people's preset packs and I check out the sounds that I can't even use them in an actual song because they're so over-processed and over the top and over-compressed. And I think people are going to be really excited about all the new features in this synth, and they are awesome features, but I think they're going to be so excited that when you see presets, they're going to try to use like every new feature in every sound. Like they're going to use the arpeggiator and the clip MIDI thing, and they're going to use all three oscillators. But really, in my view, the point of sound design is to make cool sounds that fit into your songs and make your songs better. I don't really like just sound designing for the sake of sound designing. It can be cool to do that, but I like to make actually useful sounds. So this video is more going to be about why this synth is useful just to make practical sounds for everyday use. Anyway, the bass sound I'm talking about is from Sammy Vergie's track, I Guess We're Not the Same.
I guess I'm not the same. Guess I'm not the same anymore. I guess we're not the same.
It just has this really cool, warm tone to it. And I guess now I'll just show you what my remake of the sound sounds like so you don't have to wait until the end.
Guess I'm not the same anymore. I guess we're not the same.
So I guess if I'm doing my job, you really shouldn't be able to hear that big of a difference between those two versions. Anyway, let's go in and make the sound now. And I want to show you the basic version first, and then I'll show you how to use Serum's new features to make this sound more professional. Like this sound itself is really simple. Like we'll just start with a saw wave and we just want to crank up the voices of unison for now. So what gives this sound a cool tone is actually making these voices of unison mono, like pushing the width down to 0. So when you're forcing all those copies of the wave to be in the same part of the stereo field, it's going to create all sorts of phase cancellation. Like all those copies are going to go in and out of phase with each other. And normally in mixing, phase cancellation is a bad thing, but in sound design, it can actually sound pleasing and have like a nice tone to have some phasing going on. And that's how you get the phasing in this sound. I'm just going to go down here and turn some portamento on just to have a little bit of glide between the notes. And then over in the effects section, we would just want to add some distortion. And then after that, I'll just add some multiband compression. And then obviously what really gives the sound its character is the filter. So let's do a pretty steep filter. And it's really that resonance in the filter that brings out that cool phasiness. But we can see what's wrong with this simple version of the sound if we look in a frequency analyzer. Like if you look at the volume of the low end frequencies, you can see the volume is moving all over the place. And that's because all those waves are going in and out of phase with each other. So there's not like a consistent, powerful low end to this sound, which you want if you're gonna have this bass sound professional. So let's go back into Serum here, and I'm gonna make a new preset. And we want to separate the sub-frequencies from that phasey part in the low mids. So for oscillator A, I'll make the sub-frequencies, I'll just make it a sine wave, and I'll pitch that down. And then in the second oscillator, I can make the phasey part, which is going to be the detuned saw. So right now, if you look at the first oscillator, you can see it's a sine wave. And then if we look at the second oscillator, the problem is you can see it also has sub-frequencies that are going to interfere with that sine wave. So we have a couple options to deal with this. So all the oscillators have these filters built into them now, which is pretty useful. And you can control the slope of the filter with this warp function. So the warp is making the filter steeper. It's like going like this on a classic filter. But the best way to blend these layers together is just gonna be to go into the wavetable editor and literally just remove the lowest frequency of this wave. So without that fundamental frequency, it looks like this. And then with it, it would look like this. So taking out the lowest harmonic is another form of filtering. It just gets rid of that lowest frequency. So there's a lot of options for how to filter an oscillator in Serum now. You can filter in the warp section, which I think is super cool. I've been waiting for that feature. Or you could send this oscillator to one of these filters over here and filter it individually that way. Or you could do what I did and filter it in the wavetable editor. But I think for this sound, this is the most accurate way. So now we can use the sine wave to give us like a clean, consistent low end that's not gonna be affected by the phasiness of the top oscillator. And I think it might sound a little cooler just to have two voices of unison. It gives it a little bit of a different character. And I'm also just gonna add in that portamento again, just a little glide between the notes. And I think the real game changer for Serum 2 is all the crazy routing you can do. So like first, let's focus on the sine wave. So I'm gonna send the sine wave, oscillator A, I'm gonna send it straight to bus 2. And then the saw wave, what I'm gonna do is I'll send that to bus 1 so we can process them separately. And right now I'm just gonna turn off the saw wave so we can process the low end. So if we go into the effects now, we can go to bus 2, and this is only gonna affect the sine wave. And we want this low end signal to be nice and even, so I'm gonna add a compressor. Then so we don't get those clicks and pops, I'm just gonna add a filter on there and filter those out. Then let's go back and add in those phasey saw waves. So for those, I sent those to bus 1. So in the effects section, I can go to bus 1. And what I'm gonna do with those is add some distortion. So both of those separate signals are gonna meet up in the main effect zone, and there we can compress them both together. So let's add some more compression. And then we can add the filter on top of that. And then so we get that monophasy effect, I just gotta turn down the width on this oscillator. So if you remember, the first basic patch we made looked like this in the frequency analyzer. And now the new version with the improved routing looks like this. Like, look how much more consistent that low end is. That's gonna make a huge difference in your mix if you use this sound as opposed to the other sound. It's gonna make the low end sound a lot more powerful. So I really think the most useful part of Serum 2 is all the crazy routing you can do. Like, that's what's gonna help you make the most professional sounds. Like if I go to some of my bass sounds here, I try to make sure they're not over-processed so you can just pull them up and use them in any of your tracks and they'll be useful right away. So all of my sound packs at bigzsounds.com, they're all fully compatible with Serum 2, so you don't have to worry about any compatibility issues, but I'm really excited to start making some more new packs specifically for Serum 2 that use all these new features, but do it in like a practical way where the sounds are actually useful. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.